Hello, sports fan. This is Stephen Neal of Sports Choice Plus. I'm bringing you a very special breakdown. I'm going to be covering what the George Pickens trade means for the Dallas Cowboys. Before I get right into that, I'm going to make sure that you're subscribed to the YouTube channel so you can get all the updates and all the breakdowns. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, the big news of the day is George Pickens is no longer a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's been traded to the Dallas Cowboys for essentially draft compensation. When you think about just overall George Pickens, he's a number 2 receiver. And when you think about he's a immensely talented guy that lacks self-control. He's on the Dallas Cowboys team that now has Dak Prescott as the franchise quarterback. And he also has CeeDee Lamb as a number 1 receiver to him, the number 2 receiver. I think that on paper, this makes sense, and it makes sense so much. But in reality, does it really make sense? From the standpoint of the Dallas Cowboys, when they make this move, they needed somebody as a second receiver, and they chose to not address their wide receiver needs in the draft at all. So when you're looking at this move here, you're looking at this thinking George Pickens coming into the fold. Will George Pickens understand that he is a number 2 receiver? Does George Pickens understand that he's probably not going to be paid by the Cowboys, but he's probably going to have to get his payday somewhere else? From the standpoint of having Dak Prescott as a quarterback, I think the Dallas Cowboys are in for a wild ride, and I don't think it's the ride that they think they're supposed to be getting. From the standpoint, the issues that Mike Tomlin had to deal with him not wanting to block, with him getting kicked out of games, with him not having self-control, with him being detrimental to the team, the same person is going to be traveling with the same person. So when you get George Pickens to the Dallas Cowboys, he's still going to be the same George Pickens. It's just a different building. It's just a different state, and it's just a different jersey. A lot of times what the Pittsburgh Steelers were doing was covering up the behavior. So when you get him as a talent, you also have to get him as the prolific guy that can make the one-handed catches, that can make the acrobatic leaps and the acrobatic touchdowns. But you also have to deal with the person that doesn't want to practice. The person that if he's not getting the ball, he's not really engaged in the play. The person that's not going to block. The person that's not going to give every bit of effort on each play that you need him to. So you have to understand, Dallas made a trade, and let's be clear. He's had quarterbacks like Justin Fields, Mitchell Trubisky, Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, Russell Wilson. He hasn't had the best of the quarterbacks. But going into this situation here, he's going to have a proven signal caller. He's going to have somebody that essentially can help him get to the next level. But I don't believe George Pickens is going to do the right thing. See, when they start losing, the Dallas Cowboys, his old behavior is going to pop up. Yeah, it's cool now when you're doing the press conference, when you're doing the introductory, you're saying all the right things and doing all the right things. But what happens when CeeDee Lamb gets 12 catches and you get 2? What happens when CeeDee Lamb gets 14, 15 catches and you get 3? What happens when CeeDee Lamb goes for 18 catches and you go for 5? See, that's the thing. Those are the kind of issues that you're going to see pop up with him. That's why I think the Pittsburgh Steelers won this trade. Because essentially you've got a number 1 receiver in DK Metcalf that's coachable. Yes, he has some on-field issues as far as self-control and wanting to fight people, but it's not as bad as George Pickens is. You got to think from the standpoint of DK. Now you have a cupboard that you can work with more better than what you had before. So the Dallas Cowboys, you may have won the trade as far as namesake, but when it comes time to play the Eagles, when it comes time to play the Commanders, when it comes time to play the Giants, and you're not making those plays like you thought you were, is George Pickens going to be a happy camper? Probably not. So I grade the Pittsburgh Steelers having won this trade. And then you got to ask yourself, if they get a guy that's younger, they get a guy, they got Robert Woods over there. They're building their wide receiver room back up. And they're not having to do it with a headache at wide receiver. The history of Pittsburgh Steelers receivers like AB and George Pickens going AWOL, it has to come to an end at some point. They dumped him off to you. They got compensation back, and now they're probably going to draft another receiver or somebody else. So you just got to ask yourself, is Dallas going to get this move and go to a Super Bowl? The answer is no. The answer is no. The season hasn't even started. I'm telling you the answer is no. So all you Dallas Cowboys fans, get in the comment section below. Talk about what you're going to do in the Super Bowl and stuff. But this trade is not going to make you any better. This is not going to get you in the Super Bowl. This is not going to get you past the Eagles. This is not going to get you past the Commanders. It is not going to get you past the Giants. So I think from a standpoint of overall what this means, it's just a flashy move. It's a flashy move. So prove me wrong, Dallas. Prove me wrong. Win a Super Bowl. So until then, we'll see you on the next video. Make sure you're sharing this in your Facebook group and your Instagram groups. And we'll see you on the very next video.